I am the Lady Miss Vagina Jenkins, and it is time for queer astrology. Also, maybe it's time that we finally talked about aspects. So the aspects in astrology are those lines that go through the middle of your circular zodiacal wheel natal chart. And those lines are planetary angles, and they can talk about the relationship between the placements in your chart. And for me, the aspects and understanding the aspects in a chart help to paint a picture that is much more nuanced and holistic. And it's getting into the aspects that I believe gets into the nitty-gritty, the unique details of each particular chart. You know, it creates the sort of snowflake effect that points to the individual way in which you are doing these planetary placements. Mind you, we have talked about a number of ways that you can understand any given chart. You could understand a chart in terms of just night and day. Do you have a night chart? Do you have a day chart? You could understand a chart by breaking it down into the 4 quadrants and understanding, oh, having a number of planets in a particular quadrant might mean this for my path in life. You could break down a chart into just the big 3, knowing the rising sign, the sun sign, the moon sign, and that could give you a nice picture of who a person is, what they need to feel safe, what they're aspiring to, how they navigate the world. You might go as far as to look at all of the planetary placements and see what houses they are in and understand a chart just by knowing that set of data. You could also look at a chart by looking at the essential dignities. What are the planet's elements that they're in, fire, earth, air, or water, and how do they do those elements? In a cardinal way, in a fixed way, in a mutable way? Yeah, just knowing all of that information gives you a really full picture of any given chart. And if you wanted to stop there in your understanding of astrology, just to be able to interpret your chart using all of those tools, which that's quite a few tools, you would definitely still be able to get a lot of information from your chart. And I say that to say that the aspects are useful, but some people never actually use them in their interpretation. I have had a number of astrology readings, I'd say probably 5 or 6, a good handful, where they did not address the aspects between my planetary placements, and I still was able to get unique information out of each one of those perspectives. And so yeah, don't feel pressured to learn the aspects and understand all the aspects in your chart right now. Let it be something that you organically grow into. Okay, that's my preamble. Let's talk about the aspects, if you want. There are at least a dozen different aspects, but I'm going to focus on 6 major aspect lines that we use we can use in interpreting charts. I'm going to talk about 3 of the more favorable aspect lines, and I'm going to talk about 3 of the more challenging aspects. And I'm using quotes because I want to also give you some examples of these in a chart and help you to understand that there is no absolutely favorable aspect and no absolutely negative or challenging aspect. It's more about what your planets are doing and how successfully they're doing it in their houses before we even look at the relationships between any 2 planets. And so in this video, I want to talk about the challenging aspects. Again, I just want to underline that there is no aspect that is 100% challenging all of the time. It really depends on the planets that are aspecting each other and how well they're able to do the work that they need to do in their sign before we even look at the aspects of it all. The three main challenging aspects that I want to talk about are the opposition, the square, and the quincunx. There are many other challenging sorts of aspects that I could name, but these are the three that I want to focus on. So the opposition is exactly like it sounds. Two planets that are literally directly across from each other, opposing one another. If the circle of the chart is 360 degrees and it's two planets opposing each other, that's 360 divided by 2, so that means they are literally 180 degrees, a straight line across from each other. It's very much the idea of two planets looking each other in the face. One planet is bringing to the table the work that it does in its sign, the other planet is bringing to the table the work that it does in its sign, and we're looking at each other and confronting each other and finding the balance. What do oppositions have in common? What do they not have in common? They're going to be in different elements, but they will be in the same modality, cardinal, fixed, or mutable. The other thing is, even though they will be in different elements, they will be in compatible elements. Again, that's like earth and water, because water literally waters the earth, or air and fire, the way that air can feed fire. Even though a opposition is a negative or challenging aspect, they do have a common ground. And so when I think of an opposition, I think about more two folks confronting each other directly, but coming to some sort of balance in the middle. It's not the worst it could potentially be. We are going to find a solution. I'll give you an example of a positive and maybe a negative or challenging opposition. Imagine the opposition between Mars in Scorpio and the Moon in Taurus. Again, they share the same modality. They're both fixed, which, could mean that they might get stubborn or stuck in the ways in which they do things. Mars in Scorpio is in its rulership. It's at home in Scorpio. And it very much is like, I would like to pursue, and I'm passionate about power and holding power. And the moon is exalted. It's an honored guest in Taurus. And the moon in Taurus is very much like, I want and need tangible, beautiful items, comfort items around me in order to feel emotionally safe. And so these are two really clear tasks, confronting each other. My desire for power versus my need to have nice things in order to feel safe. Achieving power might allow you to go out and be able to buy the things that make you feel emotionally safe. So a positive idea of a negative aspect like an opposition. I'll give you an example of a negative or challenging opposition. Let's look at Neptune in Virgo opposed to Mercury in Pisces. Both Neptune in Virgo and Mercury in Pisces are debilitated. They hate being in those respective signs. They're actually more associated with the opposite, in that Mercury would prefer to be in Virgo and Neptune would prefer to be in Pisces. Neptune wants to dream, it wants to connect with the spiritual plane, but Virgo is very much like, no, we need to be grounded in reality and improving reality. Mercury would prefer to be thinking and improving actual conditions in the real world, whereas Pisces is more concerned with like the spiritual realm. So yeah, these planets are not happy in the places that they are, and they're directly across from each other, confronting each other about it. And the solution would be to find some place in the middle, a middle ground. What would it be like to have thought processes that are rooted and connected to intuition in the spiritual realm and dreams that are rooted in improving one's physical reality? How can we find the solution in the middle? Does it have to do with being skilled at manifestation work? Does it mean to be connected to spirit in a way that would help you in the physical realm? These are the solutions that that particular opposition might be trying to figure out. The next challenging aspect that I want to talk about is the square. A square you can think of as having 4 90-degree angles. The circle of 360 degrees divided by 4 is 90 degrees. So planets that are sitting 90 degrees from each other. That's half of an opposition. You could almost think of a square as a semi-opposition. Are there anything that these planets have in common? Are there any things that they don't have in common? They are not going to be in the same element, nor are they going to be incompatible elements. They're going to be in incompatible elements. Fire with water, air with earth, not the most compatible at all. They will, however, be in the same mode, cardinal, fixed, or mutable. So when I think about planets being 90 degrees from each other, I think about the difference between that and being opposed 180 degrees from each other. At least in a 180 degree aspect, we are looking at each other eye to eye, face to face, trying to find a symbol, trying to find a place in the middle, a solution in the middle. Planets that are square each other are giving each other the side eye. So it's you looking at me, but I'm looking 90 degrees away, and it's very much and so these are not necessarily planets that are trying to find a solution with each other. I think probably the square is one of the more difficult. I think what I'm just trying to describe is the fact that the square is probably one of the more difficult, challenging aspects to reconcile. Even when we think about a positive square, it's not like the most useful. An example of this could be Sun in Leo square Moon in Taurus. The Sun is at home in Leo. Leo's ruled by the Sun. The Moon is exalted in Taurus. The Moon loves being in Taurus. It's so comfortable and cozy. And therein lies the challenge. The Sun in Leo is very much, I want to stand up, I want to be seen, I want to shine bright and shine my light on others. I definitely want to be seen and affirmed. Whereas the Moon in Taurus is very much sitting there like, I would rather be cozy and comfortable and surrounded by beautiful, tangible things. And they're doing the things in the same mode. So these are both fixed signs that are committed to, stuck in, stubborn around the issues in which they are working on. Even though this is technically planets working in their home signs or in their exalted signs, this square is a positive square, but it's not particularly useful. It's side eye from both parties. Example of a more challenging or negative square relationship could be Moon in Capricorn square Venus in Aries. The Moon is debilitated in Capricorn. It doesn't love being there, and Venus does not love being in Aries. Neither one of these planets is particularly happy where they are, and in terms of them relating to each other, they're both giving each other the side eye. So what this person might experience in terms of emotional stability or emotional comfort is not going to be particularly helpful to them, nor are they going to be able to do their Venus work, being able to attract things to them or attract people to them very efficiently. And the relationship between the two, my emotional landscape and my ability to attract, are also at odds with each other. Definitely a more challenging relationship, right? And the final negative or challenging aspect that I want to talk about is the quincunx. A lot of astrologers don't actually use the quincunx as one of the major aspects that they look into. But I like the quincunx a lot because it's the foundation for one of my favorite aspect patterns, which is like a group of aspects and how they're interacting with each other. And this aspect pattern is called a yod. And I think a lot of the aspects patterns talk about the ways in which tension can create excellence. Anywho. The quincunx is 2 planets that are 150 degrees away from each other. So it's not quite an opposition, because remember, an opposition would be 180 degrees. So it's 30 degrees shy of a true opposition. Reminder that the thing about an opposition is they might not necessarily be in the same element, but they are in the same modality, cardinal, fixed, or mutable. And that they are in complementary elements. A quincunx is truly incompatible. They don't share the same element or compatible elements, nor do they share the same mode of doing things. There is no common ground to be found between these almost opposing planets. So when I see a quincunx, a lot of times it's the question of either or. Either we're going to do this or we're going to do that. And sometimes you'll see a vacillation between the two. But there's very rarely any balance or common ground found in the middle. I'll give you an example of a positive quincunx, which could be Moon in Taurus, quincunx, Venus in Libra. Once again, the Moon loves being in Taurus, Venus is at home in Libra. But it's two kind of opposing ideas, needing tangibility and tangible beauty around me in order to feel emotionally safe. And the idea of Venus in Libra, in order to people and attract people, I need to have beautiful ideas. So you'll see a person using both of these skills, but rarely combining the two together. So what you might see is this person that is using both of these ideas, but never at the same time. I connect to people via ideas, but then I'm upset that they haven't given me tangible gifts, or I have a lover who gives me beautiful gifts and it makes me feel emotionally amazing, but where is the amazing conversation also? It's like light switch. Either we're here or there, but never blending the energies really. And I'll give you an example of a negative quincunx from my chart. I have Pluto in Libra, quincunx my sun in Pisces. So Pluto doesn't necessarily love being in Libra, nor does the sun love being in Pisces. Not the worst placements that they could be, you know? They're not debilitated or in their fall. And so it's two competing ideas. Pluto in Libra very much wants to be a powerful person in the friend group, or a leader of the friend group or social group. And I have that Pluto in Libra in the 11th house, and then my sun in Pisces in the 4th house. So my Pluto in Libra in the 11th is very much, I would like to use my communication in order to gain power in social or friend groups, whereas my Sun in Pisces in the 4th house is very much about wanting to connect with ancestry and spirit, and to center my life in exploring my family lineage and my spiritual family. These are two separate ideas that I often experience a tension between. And so I find myself going back and forth between these two ideas, pursuing my social and societal connections versus pursuing my spiritual and understanding my ancestral connections to spirit. I do think that my Sun in the 4th in Pisces is probably a stronger. I think when I was younger, there was more of that Pluto in Libra. Yeah, that's basically the 3 main major challenging aspects. I hope that made sense. Ask me questions, clarify statements in the comments below, and let me know about your challenging aspects in your chart. Do you have any interesting oppositions, squares, quincunxes? Let me know in the comments. I want to be nosy. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this stuff, and for being in conversation with me, and for making time for queer astrology.